Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Sit Down, Shut Up. Hope you all doing well on this Tuesday evening. So today we got Dubs. It's a Runback edition episode. So I got someone who had been trained before or ran training before. So they looked looking at their what they had mentioned. It seemed like they were kind of lost currently, right? They've been playing, not really sure where to go from here. Kind of figuring themselves a little stuck. So let's bring them on and see what's going on. Hey, Banner, what's good? Hey, Dubs, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Awesome. How's it going, man?
good.
Good,
Would
good.
you?
Just chill, man. Another wonderful Tuesday, sit down and shut up evening, I guess. So tell me a little bit about what you've been struggling with, man. I know you're saying like feeling kind of stuck, feeling like you're jumping a lot. So what's been going on?
Yeah. I got to 1600 not too long ago,
Okay.
and I dropped because I wanted the purple skin, so I had to keep playing,
Right.
and I haven't been able to get back up.
Okay. Okay. Now I feel that. Sometimes it's like the peak of your like sessions, if you will, like that
Like,
week or
really
whatever
good session
happens
and
to get
everything.
there, and then like subsequently playing it comes back down a little bit. So, and some of that is just kind of luck in terms of the people you're playing against, right? So sometimes if you're grinding late nights or something like that, you get all the demons that comes out, right? And you're just playing like there's not a population on, especially at 1600, right? We're 1600. We're talking about a much smaller percentage of the overall playing population, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes that matchmaking can get pretty wide, especially. And it does suck because sometimes you end up playing someone, you're 1600, you end up playing someone 18, 1900, right? And you can't get a win there because they're really good or whatever the case may be. Or you
Mhm.
get someone at 1400 who robs you of MR, right? You go 2-1 to lose two
Yeah,
more, right? So like
that's brutal.
yeah, and part of that is that you should be able to beat them overall, like in terms of like you should be 2-0ing them, or it should be like in a first to 10, it would be like 10-1 or something like that. The issue ends up being that the one that they get is in that first three games, right? So MR wise, that kind of hurts. I mean, of course, if you were to take them a longer set, maybe it's a little different. But anyway, okay. So we can just play the first three and see where you're at with that. Again, it's pretty common to have those high ups and downs in ranked, right? I go through it as well. So let me create a room here. We'll just run the first three. We'll do a little replay review. So kind of similar to what we did last time, right? So we'll do a little replay review of one of our games. We'll take a look at one of the replays you sent me. Typically, I don't run a second first to three on runbacks just because usually it ends up being we can figure out what's going on in those, but we'll see how
Yeah.
it goes. So is your CFN still the same?
Yes.
Okay, should be Dubs 17, right?
You playing mine now?
Oh, I was playing my earlier today, changing it up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like my a lot. I mean, it's funny because she plays pretty much like Ken, right? Like a lot of how she interacts and all that stuff. It just felt like piloting Ken for the most part with like a slightly worse fireball. So,
Yeah.
um,
Tell me about it.
yeah, Mai is brutal. Like high level Mai's are crazy. So, anyway, cool man. So like last time,
Absolutely.
we'll run the first three. I'll definitely in Discord. Then we'll go from there. So good luck.
All right. Look.
All right. So Dubs has a pretty strong Rashid, right? I mean, I played them before. They have a strong Rashid. They have a strong JP too, but I think Rashid's probably their main. Um, yeah, last time I think I noted that there was some defensive decision making. I think I'll have to look at the video before. I don't quite remember everything, but let's see what's going on now. Got the purple skin that they were talking about. Oh, hey, whiffing some buttons here. Oh, I probably could have DP'd that. Okay, so again, a little bit of passiveness in the corner, right? you know, it's first game. I'm not too sure if they've been warming up or playing it all, so let's see how the rest of this goes. A lot of whiff buttons. Uh-oh. Oh, nice. Uh-oh. I think I just got DC'd. Hey, did you get
Is that
disconnected?
on my end?
Let's
No,
see.
I think it's just CFN.
Yeah. Or restore
Yeah, I'm
battle.
still in here.
Okay, what happens if I try to restore? Uh,
Oh, it leaves us on the second round.
okay.
Like back to where we were, but
Let's see.
it restarts the round.
We'll see what happens. I mean, there's only one round in, so it's not a huge deal, but
Yeah.
all right, whatever. Good luck. CFN out here hurting our feelings. Oh, nice. Nice. One for parry. CFNY. Now I have to win extra rounds. Just kidding, man. Yeah, I think some of that's just, again, corner defense situations, trying to defend against multiple options that I'm doing. But I think the bigger issue right now is they're kind of whipping buttons in neutral. Like that. Yeah, so, again, I'm kind of getting away with a lot here. The whiffed buttons, I think, is really what's getting them here. Oh, and then parrying through that. That's actually pretty tough to defend. Wanting to parry in that situation. Can't really delay tech, necessarily, because, or you should delay tech, I guess, but, you know, you could get shimmied and all that. A throw is going to kill you, so you really can't take one there, right? So... yeah, overall, a lot of being passive feels like a neutral. Uh-oh. Good conversion. Oh, went for a safe jump, I think. Oh, burn on the corner here is tough. Can't really take a throw. Scared to tech. Yeah. Again, most of these sequences are actually predicated on some of the neutral decisions being made, right? When you're in the corner against Ken, obviously you have to guess, right? The thing is, I'm not doing anything necessarily fancy. I'm just doing strike throw. But the neutral that's getting them into the corner here is what's kind of blowing them up, right? So, like, as soon as I get them in this position, they're kind of having a hard time fighting their way out. Oh, nice. Level 2 here, right? Yep. Oh, I should have back thrown. Are they going to reversal here? Did not reversal there. So, again, I think where I'm beating them right now is that they've been whiffing some buttons, and then now that they're a little uncomfortable to press, they're kind of just backing up, right, and getting caught with the delayed crouch medium kick. So let's test the anti-airs a little bit. Yeah, see? Oh, nice. Oh! Supposed to be not a fireball or a DP there. I don't know why that came out. Oh, good conversion. Yeah. and not really representing reversal at all, right? In the corner, kind of picking the same defensive options, which is just blocking, and that passiveness is what I'm taking advantage of, right? So if I notice them blocking a lot, oh shit, that's what punish. I can go for things like throw or take, jab to throw type pressure. Oh. Oh, I'm dead, right? Yeah. I was like, I don't know why I'm continuing to block here. I should be dead on that conversion. So really good conversion on them for level 2, right? Get into that. No. I didn't recognize the sweep. Good jump. You need to be doing more of that, right? Some more active options to defeat the... Oh. Defeat some of the neutral stuff I'm doing here. I think I dropped this, did I? Okay. Whew! Whew! I thought I dropped that. Alright. Oh, enhanced. Oh, that was just unfortunate timing of the fireball recovery, right? Fireball through it. Not able to cover, so let's bring them back on. Hey man, what do you think?
I guess that was punishable.
Yeah, I didn't think I just kind of risked it for the biscuit there, honestly, because I threw the fireball and I was like, I think that might be close enough for Ken drive rush to get
It
through.
makes sense, yeah.
So, because at worst you'd end up blocking, right? Unless you wanted to reversal
Yeah.
there. So, what I was seeing on stream though is that I think right now where you're struggling is a little bit in the neutral game when it comes to spacing and some of the whiff buttons, right? So, a lot of where I was kind of tagging you was you were whiffing the stand heavy kick,
Standing
and
reading.
I think like crouching medium punch too, right? So some of those buttons kind of got whiffed, and then I was able to just kind of whiff punish it, right? And then in the corner, I think there were some defensive decisions that you could have made, meaning like, blocking is usually pretty low risk, but if I'm not giving you, if I'm giving up space and stuff, you should try to take that back and play some neutral to try to get back out, right? So let's take a look at one of the games here, and we can probably see what was happening here. So share my screen in Discord like last time. Grab one of these replays. So I think this one's probably the only one. Alright. Let's take a look at this one. Okay. Alright, so I don't mind the jump back fireball, right? If you wanted to play that zoning game a little bit, I don't mind that, right?
Yeah.
The only thing is you are giving up space overall, but it's first game, right? Not a huge deal. Right, you kind of get hit here. I'm not sure exactly what happened as to why, but it looks like maybe you're trying to do something.
Hot parry.
Yeah.
So I think it was still
in recovery.
frames where I was vulnerable. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it looks like maybe not. Just stop blocking for some reason. I don't know. Looking at this, right? Here comes the hitbox. You're always you're holding forward.
Probably trying to drive rush or
Could be.
something.
This input looks like
It was
yeah.
late.
Yeah, it might have been late on the drive rush or something, right? Maybe try to input something. Anyway, you get hit here. Right, and then all of a sudden you're in the corner, right? So like in this span of 2 seconds, you kind of back up, throw a fireball. I close the gap with a drive rush. You get a little unlucky, you get hit. And then all of a sudden you're in the corner, right? So, again, like if you're going to do the zoning thing and back up there and throw the fireball, I think that's fine. It's just that you do have to be careful about getting tagged there, right? So a little unlucky. That is what it is. But from this position here, what's happening, right? So I am trying my best to keep you in this corner, right? And I'm trying to use Ken's stand heavy punch and crushing medium punch to keep you there, right? So like if you look at the ranges that I'm standing at here, after this hit, right? So after this, right? You kind of back up a little bit, or you get pushed back a little bit, rather. And then from here, I just press my crouching medium punch, right? So even though Ken is minus here, -2, it's very difficult for you to press here, right? Because if you press something like a 4-frame or whatever, it may whiff, and then I get space trapped, right? So like you have to kind of block and hold this, and that's predicated on my ability to space this as best I can, right? So the better I space this stand heavy punch, the harder it is for you to react to that, right? So your goal, if I'm doing this or someone's doing this to you, where they're kind of pressing buttons in your face, is to try to get them to misspace these buttons, right? Whether it be from a whiff punish or, you know, you walk up and stuff it one way or the other, right? Because every time you block one of these, you take some drive gauge damage, you get pushed back, and it opens you up for like a space trap if you try to take your turn back, right? So, right, so here it's 0, right? So neutral. And then you see me kind of just dancing back and forth, right, in that range. So
Yeah.
trying to stay there as best I can. You managed to get me with a sweep here, which is really good, right? Good timing on your sweep here. And then you get a side switch, right?
Yeah, I usually watch for people when they're crouching or not, when they're not really, when they're being careless with it, you know?
Yeah, and that's a good
So
that's a
that's
good
the
habit.
reason for sweep.
Yeah, it's a good habit to have in the corner, especially because when you are cornered, your ability to play neutral is hampered, right? Because you can't back up to create space anymore. So instead of you being able to like bait things and whiff punish, the only options available to you now are to either cover attack by pressing a button as I come close, or you walk forward and press a button to try to hit me, right? Both of those things are really difficult to do because I know that you can't whiff punish me, right? So if you're walking forward, I'm not as afraid to press the button as I would be if you had more space behind you, right? Because I'm controlling the space now. So if you're able to use your sweep, because sweep is pretty long range for Rashid, right? It's like one of his longer range normals. So if you're able to use that effectively and read my movement and my rhythm on that, and then get the side switch, that's fantastic, right? Let's see what happens here now. I'm in the corner. Now I have to deal with Rashid mix-up pressure, right? So let's see what happens.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good. Good overhead. Right. And then I get out by doing what Ken's do, which is drive
Yeah,
button,
I shouldn't have done that.
hit button, drive rush into throw, right? So,
So they'd
so
already gotten you once. So
yeah. Right. So you're doing actually a really good job overall in terms of trying to keep me locked in the corner, right? You don't necessarily have to extend or walk up for a throw or anything like that. You could, right? If I'm not pressing buttons, I've been pretty passive, right? So I don't mind the decision to try to go for a throw here. You do get hit though, right? So unfortunately, you know, it is what it is. And then since I drive rush here, you know, you have to deal with this mix-up, right? You can try delay teching or whatever, but you elect to block, which is 100% fine, right? Like there's no reason why you couldn't block here. But me being me, go for the drive rush throw, right? So I spent 3 bars, which is a lot, right? That's half my meter for this mix-up opportunity, right? And it pays out because I get you in the corner. But, you know, this is one of those situations where you could potentially think about delay teching or, if you're ready, derevving, right? Only thing is, again, your meter's a little low, so maybe derev isn't the best option. Delay tech might have made sense here overall. And it's one of those things, again, you're just kind of thinking of feel for, right? If your opponent is going for this drive versus throw stuff all the time, then maybe you want to transition to adding delay tech to your defensive options, right? So let's see what happens. They're in the corner again. And then I'm doing the same thing I was doing earlier, right? I'm kind of dancing in and out of your range and trying to press buttons when I think it'll hit you, right? So confirm that. Go for a parry here. Gets thrown. Unfortunate, right? Went for the hard read and didn't quite work out. Is what it is. So,
it happens.
right. So here what happened? How did you get hit there, right? So it happened to line up when you were moving forward, right? So
Yeah, I stopped blocking for a second.
yeah, you stop blocking, hold down, right? But maybe you're getting ready to press something, and look, you might have been trying to move forward, and then it happens to tag you, right? So I actually wasn't ready for that hit. Although Ken doesn't get a whole lot off of that, right? I'm just kind of poking you here. If I get a counter hit or a punish counter, it's different, but here it's just kind of a hit, right? So, you know, Ken doesn't really get a whole lot off of this, unless I cancel, right? Which I don't, so. Right, and then after that hit, I just press another button here, right? Because I'm plus. Or not plus, sorry. Oh, I am plus because I hit you, right? So I just press another button here. And then this happens to tag you right here. Right. So it looked like here, you might have been trying to input something, or you had stopped blocking here. But either way, this kind of hits you, which is unfortunate. I was not actually expecting this to hit because you blocked the first thing, right? So I wasn't ready for the
I've been
follow up
getting
here.
tagged a lot for the last hour, so
Yeah, and I
that
feel like some of it is just like it looks like your input is that you're not holding block, right? So it looks like you're potentially
it's
getting
like I'm
beat.
trying to
Yeah,
break the space or something. I'm trying to do something.
yeah,
It's
it looks
either
like
like
yeah,
it's either jump or it ends up just being like I'm trying to go forward, you know?
yeah, trying to close the space a
Like
little bit, maybe try to close the gap, right?
the guy, he probably won't press after this, you know?
Yeah,
Trying to read the block string.
and then get tagged, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Because
yeah,
you do that. You like do the first hit and then you go up for a throw.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So
100%, right? I do that a lot. I'm trying to mix up what's happening in between those hits, right? So every time you block something, my goal as the offensive player here, at least the way I'm playing the game here at this moment, is to try to get you to guess, right? So every time I press a button, every time you have to block something or you get hit, you have to guess what's going to happen next, right? So I'm just trying to hit you, trying to throw you, trying to mix that up, right? And I do that a lot, right? I do like the hit into the throw, right? Or like I'll shimmy and a lot of stuff. So to your credit here, you did a decent job of defending most of this. The only issue is that some of these random kind of hits that are happening, right? So like it'll open you up a little bit, give me an opportunity to walk up, right? So just watch your block, right? Make sure you're blocking. Be willing to choose a defensive option though. I don't think you reversaled at all through most of our
yeah,
through our
no.
set. And I actually noted that too. I was like, oh, hey, they haven't really reversal or represented that. So I was kind of just bullying you with buttons without really thinking about it, right? Because if you're not reversaling the strikes, the meaty strikes and meaty throws, then I'm just gonna keep doing it, right? Because you can only block for so long before you either run out of drive or something else happens, right? So that was good, right? I whiffed the button, able
Get
to
much
punish it.
else off that. So
Yeah. Right, so that's one of the situations right here, right? This whiff.
yeah, I misspaced that one. That
Yeah.
one, I don't know why I thought it would hit.
It's actually pretty tough, right? So if you look at what had transpired before this was a Jinrai kick, right? So you block this. Yeah, replay takes so long to get back, right? So I space this kind of not the best, but it is far enough, right? So I press this. The pushback on set heavy punch is kind of far, right? And then after this happens, right? Ken is -5. So you press within a reasonable amount of time, right? 2 frames out or whatever. But this spacing means that it's
It's
unlikely.
just it's way too far.
Yeah, it's unlikely
So
your 5 framer or even 8 framer would reach here, right? Because like the stand medium punch is like an 8 frame or 6 frame, sorry. So that's what happens here, right? So it's kind of a natural space trap here. If you had pressed this button, I just kind of see the button coming out and I react to it, right? With my crouch medium kick. So this is one of the situations where even though you're plus, you have to be careful of the spacing between the characters. So make sure that when you are going to take your turn back here, you take it back with a button that would reach, right? So Ken is -5 here. So I'm not going to press anything normally, right? Like unless you give me a reason to press in that situation, I'm not because I'm -5. So it means that I'm likely just blocking. So what that means for you is that you can press a longer range button, maybe like the was it stand heavy punch? I
or the
think,
heavy punch.
yeah,
Yeah,
something like that. Because what happens if you do that, right? Let's see. So I'm
because it actually
blocking.
reaches.
Yeah, it should reach,
So
and I
it's a
block it,
lot
right?
longer.
Yeah. So
No, it's like
right.
what 9 frames. So
Yeah, 9 frames, right? So let's see. Oh, what was it? Let's see. Yeah, 9 frames. But again, because Ken's -5, right, this is going to trade with, even if I press a jab after that, it's going to trade, right? In fact, if I press a jab, it's actually a pretty bad idea on my part, right? Because then if I jab, right, then that stand medium punch will work, right?
yeah,
So, like if we go back to this situation here, I take control of me, and I press this jab, right, I get counter hit, right? Like you can see it, right? So, if I press anything bigger, I'll also get counter hit, right? So, crouch medium kick, right? Excuse me. So in my mind, after you block that, again, I'm minus, so I can't press there. So in your mind, I think when it comes to these situations where you have, a reasonable amount of frame advantage, but there's space, you could consider taking your turn back aggressively with a larger button, right? because if I press anything medium button wise in a -5 situation, it's gonna get counter hit by whatever you do, right? The only way that I beat you in that scenario is if you whiff something, which is what happened, right? So you just have to be careful about your spacing. Make sure that when you press the button, or at least do your best anyway, that when you press the button, it's gonna reach, right? Even if I block it, that's actually good too, right? So if I block it, it means that I can't do anything either, right? Unless it's a punishable move, that kind of scenario, I suppose. But for the most part, in these kind of neutral situations, whiffing the button is like the part that's going to get you killed 9 times out of 10, especially once you get into like 1600, 1700, right? Like I'm sure right now, like even at this level, because it's still ranked reset, it's pretty new. I'll be willing to bet that the games you win is when you run someone over, right? You win the neutral, you put them in the corner, you Rashid mix them to death. But the games where you might be losing are ones where it seems like you got hit in neutral, and then all of a sudden you're defending in the corner, right? So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I
Those are
mean,
very whiff
yeah,
punish heavy
yeah,
losses, you know? It's probably happening in the replays that show.
yeah. We'll take a look
It
at a
probably does.
couple, and let's see what's happening there. But this is what I did notice was happening during our set was a button would get whiffed. I'd be in a position to whiff punish it, and then from here it's just a matter of me putting the corner. Oh shit! It's a matter of me putting in the corner, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely misspaced a lot of heavy or standing medium
standing,
kicks.
yeah, and
A
the
lot
send
of
heavy kick too,
those.
right? So
And I think that was once. Because that
mhm.
one's a lot longer. That one you don't really use much.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna change this around too. All right, let's go from here. Yep. Let's go with punish there. Your driver's getting checked, right? And then there's the whiff, right? So now you have to deal with Ken in the corner. Right, just kind of back off here, right? But you elect to block a lot of the time, right? And then the whiff throw, right? This one's tough because if you like whiffing a throw here, I have so long to confirm this, right? So it walked up, expecting me to not move, right? And then he kind of went for it, right? And I think that even if I didn't move,
Yeah.
this is kind of far.
It was way too early.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, you could have walked forward a little bit more. I think you had a little bit more time to do it overall. This stand heavy punch doesn't come out if you don't whiff that though. So like here,
yeah, I probably would have thrown. So
yeah, yeah. So take combo. All right, now here's tough, right? So in this position here, it's very difficult to defend because a throw will kill you, right? So I dash up here. You have to make a defensive decision right now if you want to delay tech or reversal me here, right? Unfortunately, go for the parry, right? So you
just
expect me
very
to strike, which is fine. The issue is you didn't have really enough bar here, right? In the
well, either
scenario.
way, if I had gotten hit, I was gonna go into burnout. So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was either throw or parry really.
yeah. I
To like
think yeah.
to keep the
So
drive gauge, you know?
so I think that if you were gonna parry here, I think a better option would have been to level 1. And the reason I'm going to say that is because the things that the parry will beat, level 1 also beats, right? So the parry is going to beat specifically a strike, right? And you have to get a perfect parry here in order for you to preserve the bar. So even if you just tapped parry and you block something, you would actually burn out before that, right? So if you were reading strike, right, and that's your defensive option, or sorry, the offensive option you're trying to defend against, an alternative would have been to reversal here, level 1, right? So use your super. Because again, it beats the same things, right? So if you, if you it beats the same things, it actually even beats meaty throw as well, right? So it would have covered both
Yeah.
of those things, right? It does lose the shimmy, but you would have lost that anyway, right, in this scenario. Because even if you go for parry here and I shimmy you, which is actually what happens, more or less, right? I'm walking up for a throw here, right? So it wasn't quite a shimmy. But if you're level 1 here, I think this is actually what's happening, right? As I'm walking up. Because I'm not exactly like super tight on the meaty here because it's after super, right? So Ken has to spend drive to make this like real. So as I'm walking up here, right, this is really hard to defend, right? Because you don't know what I'm going to do and all that.
It's just guess for game.
Yes, for game, pretty
So
much, yeah. I do think again that you could have went for a super here. The issue though ends up being that it's not a pure guess situation, right? Because I'm a neutral. So after this, right, you'd have the super right here potentially, like a wake up super. And then if you do that, I
And even
actually,
then, you're still walking
yeah, I'm
up.
still walking up
So
and I'm block, right? I could block from here because I'm not doing anything, right? I actually delay just a split second here before I walk up and throw you, right? So I'm expecting a reversal here, and then I go throw, right? So it's a very difficult situation. The reason again I bring up that reversal might have been the correct option in terms of a super here is because if you had made the read that you're gonna beat a strike, you might as well go for the super here, right? Because at worst you still lose, right? You still die and all that, but at best you'll be able to preserve your bar, right? Get a little bit of that back because it's level 1. Be able to hit me, and Rashid's level 1 slide switches too, right? Like you'll be on the other side of the
yeah,
screen,
and then
right?
I
So
can build up another level too.
yeah, and then you'll have
So
enough. You know, you're here right at this point, so you'll have some opportunity to get back into the game. Right now, of course, it's very difficult to get back from. Right, like I have a ton of health, ton of meter, right, all that. But at
yeah,
least you would have
it's
a
still about
chance.
the position. So
Yeah, yeah,
it would it would be the better option.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I mean, dying is usually the worst option, right? So
yeah.
if you have a chance to get back in it, that would be something worth looking into, right? So I think that if you were to break this particular one down, I did super you here so that it was a good amount of damage, but I do think that it was this right here that kind of snowballed, right? So you get hit, put in the corner, you deal with meter pressure here, right? And then the whiff throw here, right? So you can see there's 2 whiffed buttons, or 2 whiffed actions, if you will, that ended up putting you, like, 95% of your health was taken from that, right? So it just goes to show, like, being careful about whiffing buttons and your spacing is really important, especially when the opponent has level 3, right? So, and then here, of course, the defense position here, very, very difficult, right? I don't fault you for trying this, but again, if you were going to parry anyway, you might as well at level 1, right? You could have done that. I would not have seen that coming, right? If you had just done it right there instead of the parry, I probably would have gotten hit, right, as I'm trying to walk up the throw. But again, it's very difficult, right? Because you could delay tech, but you still lose a shimmy. But you're gonna lose anyway, I suppose, right? If you take the throw here, so making a decision there is not a bad thing to do, right? You have to. It's just unfortunately, you guessed incorrectly, for better or worse. So anyway, yeah. I think if I were to try to pick something actionable, it would be to kind of go into training mode and get a sense of like how far you should be standing for all your buttons, right? That would be what I would do. And go from there, right? So once you have a sense of like how far you can be standing, the next couple of ranked games you play, just try to not whiff any buttons and make sure that all your buttons when you do press them land. Very, very hard to do though. Like way easier for me to say that than it is to actually do it. But that's, I think, a good way to get a nice sense of like how close you actually need to be standing, right? I think most people play a little bit further away than they should be or need to be for playing neutral. So, getting a sense of how far your buttons are is going to help a ton. Okay, cool. So let's take this Akuma matchup. Let's take a look at this one. So while I'm bringing that up, any questions or anything you want to ask while I'm doing that? Anything you're thinking?
At the moment,
Okay.
yeah, I think because it was just a really bad first game. That first game was a lot of whiff punishes, and it was a
Yeah.
lot of bad stuff on my part
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because of the whiffs.
Yeah, and
Like
that's really
even
kind
I
of,
noticed it.
yeah. And you
So
felt it too, right? It's like, oh man, like every time I press a button,
like,
it's like
oh
I'd be like,
God, that
yo,
was bad. Why did I do that?
yeah. Let's take a look at this guy, and let's see what's happening here. So this is ranked. I guess you were playing this earlier. Let's
This
take a
just
look.
happened. So
All right, fresh in your mind. So,
this guy was like teabagging and everything, even though I
oh
beat him
really?
the first time. Yeah.
Oh, we got the toxic match to watch. All right, let's see what happens here. Okay. So you do the backup fireball again. You don't
Yeah.
necessarily need to back up unless
It's
you really
just
want to.
late.
Yeah, you just got to be careful. Autopiloting that.
Mm. Yeah, I try to parry those. I gotta try and block while I attempt those, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah. So something you do need to try to. So you get hit by that one. That's fine, right? Counter hit on your start up your fireball. But yeah, you do want to try to block and parry, right? And then hold forward after the parry. So make sure that you parry or block the fireball before you try to walk forward again. So like that one, these are better, but make sure you take the space up as you can, right? So you're obviously still in recovery here. So your goal at this point, so he's throwing another fireball, right? So your goal at this point should be to try to get a little bit of space, right? So from here, what I would do, right? I'm terrible at that. What's going on here, right? Like make sure you walk forward after you block each fireball, because if you're just passively standing here, right, you're gonna end up losing drive and losing space. Alternatively, from this distance, you can also jump, right? So, right, and you saw
Yeah.
what happened too, is this Akuma is inputting fireball, right? Now, again, I'm gonna preface this by saying that since we know what happens, that's why this looks like it works. But it is an option you can do. Is that this Akuma right here, right? If I reset the game and I just let this play out, right? He's throwing fireballs pretty much as fast as he can, right? So if I jump a fireball, right? See how the next fireball doesn't come out? So the projectile that's still on the screen prevents Akuma from throwing a second one, right? So if the Akuma is aware of that, they probably won't throw the fireball. And now you're standing closer, right? You see where I'm standing now, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like that's Footsie's range now, right? Now, whether or not the Akuma reacts to that is a little different, right? They could throw the fireball, drive rush behind it, and then you jump and get DP'd. That happens, but I guess you can also, recognize that they're going to drive rush. But the idea there is to close the distance as best you can, and from the distance that you were pairing those fireballs at, I think you can safely jump on reaction, right? So, again, looking at this, right, from this distance, right, maybe you get DP'd there, right? Maybe. The Akuma does have to be ready for that if that's going to be the case. But looking at this distance here, trying to judge it, I don't know if you get DP'd.
No,
Yeah,
you
if you,
don't.
yeah, especially if you,
Absolutely not.
yeah, especially if you jump without a button, right? So if you press a button, maybe, right? So if I did something like this, right, maybe I'll get DP'd because of the extended hurt box and all that stuff, or because there's additional recovery when you come down. But if you just empty jump to get over the fireball, right? You can potentially get it back into Footsie's range, right? So something to consider against zoners. You do have to jump against someone that is zoning, right? That's just how it goes. The question is when to do it, which is very difficult, but you have to get a sense of the rhythm of their fireball timing and then try to jump and predict it, right? It's hard. It's easy for me to say that, and I struggle with this as well a lot. But it is something you can do to get around some of the fireball stuff, right? Other than going for like parries and whatnot, right? Parry walk, right? That's the other safe way to do it. So, right? Okay. So here's interesting, right? Let's take a look at this. You block something, right? Akuma's turn is over, technically, and then you back up. Right? So it's very hard, I think, to not do this because you just block something, you want to back up under pressure. But Akuma is going to be able to zone you effectively, right? Like Rashid's Firewall can't really compete with Akuma's Fireball in that if you're going to try to play that game, right? So after this happens here, right, Akuma tries to take up some space, tries to poke you, block it. It's effectively your turn, right? So if you just walk up and do your button next, or press your button even from here, this potentially tags Akuma that's just mindlessly throwing fireballs, right? So if you go into this position here, and I just press this, right, walk forward, right, I stay in the space, right? You could also try jumping potentially, right? So if they do that and they're throwing fireballs, right, you could jump in that scenario. Again, this is all predicated on your ability to read their fireball timing, right? So just standing there and blocking is typically going to just drain your gauge, and you end up going to get frustrated and lose because you jump at a wrong time and get DP'd, right?
Yeah.
So again, the thing you don't want to do though is give up space, right? So you worked really hard to get into this position here, right? Like took some damage, took some drive gauge, right? Like you took a bunch of damage and stuff to get into this position in the first place, right? You jump, right? He reacts with this, and then you just give the space back up, right? Like back up, try to play fireball game again, right? So that kind of small neutral decision making is what will ultimately help you get better at the game, because you're not allowing the opponent to kind of throw fireballs for free anymore, right? So if you stay in that space, stay inside of that crouching medium kick or sweep range for Rashid, and try to play neutral with them, hopefully will help you, because they'll have to stop throwing fireballs when you're up close like that, because you could jump, right, if you're close like that. So they have to try to respect what you're doing. You could jump over their button, or you could jump over their fireball to throw a bad one, right? So, but the idea then is that they're no longer throwing fireballs, right? So if they're not throwing fireballs anymore, you don't have to deal with it, and you can play, grounded neutral here, right? So, okay, so good jump.
Oh, I
Unfortunately,
think they walk forward.
yeah, they walked forward here, right under your button. Unfortunately, Akuma walk speed is what it is, right? It's super fast. If you really weren't sure, you might want to consider coming down with the cross-up button instead of the jump heavy kick, right? So something to think about. Maybe that makes sense to do in those kind of ambiguous situations, or everything's going to walk forward. Because if you came down with a cross-up, this hits them, right? All right, so from here, was a medium kick, right? No. What's Rashid's cross-up
Medium
button?
kick. Yeah, it's medium kick.
Medium kick? Oh, okay. All right, so maybe he
Yeah,
blocks
there
it.
it is.
I'm not pressing it late here. So maybe he blocks this. Ooh, man.
I think it's how you have it's where you have it paused,
Yeah,
so
I
there's
think
less of a
it's like
window.
an awkward time, right? So hold on.
Yeah, yeah, like right there.
Yeah, this is probably. Let's make sure you're still jumping. I think you're gonna be jumping here. Let's make sure. Right. So if you really aren't sure, coming down with the cross up is probably gonna be better. At least you have a chance, right? So if they happen to walk under, in this case, he's gonna block anyway because he's walking forward, so it's gonna block the cross up, which is what I think the Kuma was expecting here. So maybe it still blocks. But if they have to block a jump in, then it's still your opportunity to press buttons, right? They have to reversal or do something else depending on how high you hit them. But whiffing it is going to get you killed, right? So
Yeah.
consider at that range that you were jumping, consider using a cross up button instead if you aren't sure, right? Now, if the Kuma backs up, even if you use a cross up button here, it'll hit them, right? So unfortunately, that's what happens instead. Right, hits you with the lights, and then takes his plus frames here and hits you again, right? So from here, after the light fist, I don't forget that. It's like advent flame or whatever it's called. I forget the name. After this hits, right? Kuma's +3, basically, is what I'm trying to get at. So after this hits you, right, in recovery, Kuma's +3. So you can't really press here, right? If the Kuma does anything to keep this frame tight, you're going to get counter hit, right? So it looks like you actually go for a delay tech, or at least try to.
Oh, it's because the Sukuma ended up. You just throw after this
Go up, throw, yeah.
usually.
Just walk up and throw.
Like it's one of his options.
Yeah, because he's plus, right? So
Yeah,
you have to guess here. The issue is that you don't delay tech it, right? So you go for instant tech. So
yeah, it
if
was a
they
little early.
if they'd walk up throw, it'll beat that. But if you do the delay tech here, you'll beat both those options, right? So if they've been showing that they walk up throw or go for buttons, then delay tech might be the right way to go. But again, Akuma can shimmy you from here, but that's not what you were guessing, right? You were guessing they were going to go for a throw anyway. So if you're reading that they're going to throw, then you should try to do delay tech instead, right? Do the option select that will cover more options, right? So unfortunately, you have to take the OD now. Corner combo, TP. Oh,
Usual Akuma things.
yeah. Goes for meaty throw, right?
Yeah, he just throws.
And then here he went for an interesting option, right? So it looks like he actually delays a little bit here, expecting you to wake up with something, right? So he walks up here, right? Backs up here, trying to shimmy, it looks like, right? And then does a delay option here, right? So again, I'm not sure what you said. This was like game 2 or 3 of the set or whatever.
Yeah, it was game 2.
So here, I think blocking is totally fine if you're not sure. which is what happens, right? You block, and then you try to jump, unfortunately, and that's what gets you killed, right? So you try to jump out of this situation, and then you get hit, right? As far as defensive option goes, I think that's totally fine, right? The thing you have to pay attention to on defense, though, is what your opponent is doing overall, right? So if we look at how we got in the situation here, look at interactions, right? We just had some fireballs hit you, right? One jump in that got basically beat by a light string confirm. And then you got mixed up here, right? Because your delay tech was not delayed enough, right? You get hit by this here. Akuma converts this. Uses a little bar to deal some damage here. And then from here, you just have to look at what they're doing, right? It looks like they just go for a meaty throw. And then they go for a shimmy, right? Basically. Shimmy into a delay button, right? So, you know, you have to consider the options that your opponent is showing you when you make defensive decisions. And I think that if this was me, I probably would have gotten hit actually right here, right? So right here, I probably would have delay teched, honestly, and I would have gotten hit. But the thing is, you're not really choosing defensive options after this, right? So, like, if you look, you actually block the rest of this, right? So you're just holding down back. Take a throw, right? And then you try to jump out after this, and this is what gets hit, right? So I think the jump out itself is probably not a bad idea. The issue is the spacing, right? All kind of boils down to that. So if Akuma after this, like, you could have jumped here on wake up if you were going to jump. I think would have been a slightly better option because of how close the Akuma is, right? So if the Akuma is standing too close and goes for a throw, you'll be able to jump this. Now, it's a little bit questionable if it's going to work or not, because if the Akuma's ready and they reverse, like, crosscut EXTP you here, you might die, right? So if you jump, right?
It's a wrong guess.
Yeah.
So,
but you're going to die anyway, right? So you try to jump at this point, and this is what gets you killed, right? But the difference here, though, is that look at the spacing that you're playing at here, right? So this is the after the button, and this is before the button, right? Right, so he delays his option, which would give you time to jump, basically, right? Again, he may be ready to crosscut you, whatever, but we're talking, like, what is the goal when you're trying to get out with a jump? From here, you'll be able to jump over them, right? And take the crosscut, whatever, but at least you'll be able to jump over them. But from this position here, you're not getting up, right? The Akuma it's a -1 situation, but if they press another button here, it's going to catch your jump, right? So you have to be careful about trying to jump in this scenario. Because that's what happens, right? It actually catches your pre-jump frames, and this is what gets you, basically. So what I will say again is that if you're gonna jump, you have to watch that spacing, right? If you can get tagged by a button in neutral like that, then jumping is a little bit risky, right? Now, if the Kuma is standing further back, right, or with the button, potentially you can jump then, right? That would be what I would do in that scenario. But as far as corner defense goes, like, you didn't really reversal. You didn't really go for any other options here. And again, as I know this is game 2, and maybe this is in response to, like, something the Akuma is doing. But the only options defensively that you've represented so far is blocking and potentially delay teching. But I don't know if the Akuma knows that or not, right? He didn't really go for a throw break at this point in this game, right? Or there wasn't a throw break rather in this game. So as far as he's concerned, you're just blocking everything. Right, so what he does is he does something that, you know, a lot of people do, is just, okay, if they're going to block everything, I'm just going to press buttons in their face and then try to throw them, right? So, this one. Right, same thing again. Back up, go for the EX fireball. Excuse me. For the wind charge, right?
Yeah.
And then he just parries, right? Is it D-Ref? Let's see. Interesting. So he just holds the mix. Able to block you high-low, right? So how did he do that? Let's see. So the inputs here, he holds the parry. Just blocks.
I usually don't do that, but, you know, he wasn't showing that he was jabbing out of it, so.
Yeah. I mean, this is fake, right? Like, you can jab this, but if he doesn't, then totally go for it, right? So instead, what does he do? He actually blocks high. And then
it's a simple high-low.
Yeah. So. Blocks high-low, delay tech, right? You actually see him delay tech in between here, right? And now he's doing a delay jab. right? And this is what actually hits him, and how you're able to hit him. So now you would have known this, right? Like you wouldn't necessarily have seen that what defensive option he's selecting. For all you know, he's blocking or delay teching, right? So you just have to consider like that's the defensive option that they're doing. But you can, if you did notice, they do tend to go. They have so far been going for delay options, right? So they did a delay jab into a delay medium punch, and you actually tagged them counter hit here. And in the previous game on offense, they went for a shimmy into a delayed crouching medium punch, right? They waited a little bit to press it. So that kind of information you kind of have to pay attention to see if you can blow up one of their defensive options. Because if you look again, he goes for a delay jab. Right, there's one delay. There's two delay. And then from here, he actually tries to take his turn back with a crouching medium punch.
Yeah.
Right. You press your button a little bit sooner, right? Even though you're minus, right? So he's a little late in what he's supposed to press. You get the counter here, right? So what really happened is that he tried to delay button to prevent you from doing some sort of mix-up after the jab. And then once you were spaced out, he went for a crouching medium punch. Now, if this, I don't know if this delay was intentional or not. I don't think it was. I think he wanted it to come out as soon as you were done pressing your buttons, and he just happened to press it late.
Yeah, it's a little fake because of the spacing, I think.
Maybe.
It's only the spacing that makes it like hit
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. So what happens, right? So he does this jab. Right. 1, 2. Oh. One, two. At the low. Yeah, there's one. He just delay jab this. Delay jabs this. Right? And then presses here after he knows that he's going to be spaced out, right? So from this situation right here, ideally you don't press, right? Because you're minus, right? -1. But you go for the button anyway, and it works out, right? So I think that if the Akuma did press their button timely, meaning like they were pressing it when they intended to, I think they actually tag you here. So let's see. Right. So it's just a matter. It just happened to work out this time that they delayed it. Now, whether that was intentional or not, I don't know. But if you guys were playing frame tight, if you want to call it that, that crouching medium punch would have beat your crouching medium kick, right? I think is what you ended up doing. Crouching medium punch, whatever it was. But instead, it worked out for you, right? And that's fine, right? It's just that now you have to consider when you land this counter hit in this scenario here. And the reason I'm kind of harping on this is because I think where you're struggling is to get to open people up, right? In some cases here. Because in the first game I saw, it looked like you weren't able to really get any offense going. And here you do have an opportunity, right? Opening people up or open them up. But I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like in some of your games, it looks like maybe you're having difficulty getting people opened up in neutral, right? Or am I off base?
I mean, it makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
I just got up for rank, so yeah, it makes a lot of sense
Okay.
for the losses.
Because I feel like,
Because when they do block, it's like I have to go to other options, and eventually they're gonna run out. So because it's a bunch of high lows, a lot of shimmies, a lot of meaty throws, and all that. But if they don't let me set it up, there's no point, right?
yeah. I think once you're in this position, this is very strong for you, right? Like you're able, like even when we were playing and you had me cornered, I was guessing for my life, right? I have to guess high low, strike throw, shimmy, right? All that stuff. This is really strong, and I feel like your offense here is pretty solid overall, right? And even the first time we played, Rashid corner offense is pretty strong, right? So you're able to get your hits, right? Set up the mix up, right? See if they block, right? They block it, but then you're able to counter hit them after this setup, right? Right. And this is actually the same thing again as the previous interaction they got hit. The difference though is they press a short range button, but it's still late.
Yeah, it's hard to like counter that because you, as the opponent, you have no idea
Yeah.
that you can jab out of it, and
Right.
when you do try and you get clipped, like
Yeah, on
it
the
just
pokey.
tells you to stop doing that.
yeah. On block, like you have to be aware of what's happening there in order to check it, right? So the fact that he still blocks it means that you didn't open him up though, right? He was able to quote unquote defend the mix up here. And the reason he gets hit again here is because he presses his button when you're minus, but he presses a short button and he presses it late. So if you look, he's trying to use a stand light kick to get out of this, right? But the issue is, though, again, he presses it late. And your crouching medium kick's already coming out, right? So again, if he was frame tight here, like meaning he presses it when he's
Yeah, if he actually knew, like, then he would have known to do it instantly, because
yeah,
that's the beauty of knowing it, of knowing
yeah,
when to press,
knowing when to press, yeah. And I think you're right. Maybe he didn't quite know and was just trying it. But against someone that will be tight against that and know that know that you're minus there, you're gonna get counter hit a lot if you continue to try to steal the turn with a crouching medium kick, right? That said, if they are allowing you to do it, keep doing it, right? There's no reason to change what you're doing if
yeah,
it's working, right? And it's worked twice for you so far. But the thing to keep in mind now is that since it's worked twice so far, you have to determine if that's something that this opponent does. Like, is it habitual for them to try to press a button in that situation? Or were they trying to test things and maybe they're not going to do it anymore, right? So you do have to consider what happens next from there. So anyway, worked out, right? Counter hit into the cyclone again, and another counter hit here as he tries to press another button, right? So in this case, after the hit, for some reason he tries to press a crouching heavy punch. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe they're trying to do something else. Who knows? But you can see again that they're not exactly frame tight, right? On their next button, right? So again, maybe it's them delaying it intentionally. Maybe they're waiting for something. Who knows? But you are taking advantage of this now, so continue with it, right? Oh, trade combo? Nope. This was good, right? Right. So how'd that end up happening, right? Right, whiff punish, DI. That's good stuff, right? So you were kind of committed to that either way. So even if they blocked it, I think you would have gone into it. And if they don't react to that, they're dead either way, right? So I think that's totally fine to go for. The cool thing though is that you whiff punished it, right? So if you look, right there, this space, this is a space that you should be trying to recognize, right? As you get better and climb in the game, right? This is what you would probably lab, right? If I were to give you something actionable, like you pay attention to where you're standing, and pay attention to like how all your buttons would reach from here, probably, right? Additionally, all of Akuma's buttons would probably like Akuma's medium buttons and light buttons would probably whiff from this range, right? So people always talk about standing under the timer, right? When you have them in a corner, and this is why, right? So if you're standing here, you can whiff punish them, you can bully them with your buttons, you can anti-air jumps. Right, so if they try to jump, you can anti-air. If they try to walk up, you can check them with a jab or a 4-frame or 5-frame. And if they press something that whiffs, you can whiff punish, right? Additionally, you have the option of just walking up and pressing a button, right? So if they elect to do nothing, you can walk up and throw them. Or you can try to get them to, you can try to induce a whiff as well, right? You can walk forward and back, they whiff a button, you whiff punish, right? Classic whiff punish stuff. But this positioning right here, as scary as it is, because you're standing like next to Akuma, basically, this is super strong. Right, for pretty much every character in the game, right? It's very difficult to defend against someone standing here, right? So, and then you win it, right? Because you're able to land a whiff punish, get a full conversion here, right? So, all right, let's go to the next round. Okay.
It's a standard trade.
Yeah.
So it happens a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah. And I think you took advantage of it though, right? Like, look what happens after this, right? Kuma gets knocked down, you giant brush. Perfect, right? And you consider what you gain when you do this, right? You gain a bunch of stage presence, right? You gain the space, right? And that's what's important against Akuma. Because if you allow him to get up from far away, he'll start throwing fireballs again. You have to deal with that crap, right? So from here, you can't really throw fireballs. Ouch. Okay, so now we're in this kind of uncomfortable neutral space, right? Oh, nice TP. So Akuma does have pretty good buttons here, and he can contest the space pretty well. Crouching medium punch, forward medium kick, right? Like, these buttons are really good for controlling that space. So you do have to kind of respect it a little bit. But you are standing in a good spot where you can try to land your buttons as well, right? So you have to pay attention to how the Akuma is playing neutral, and then try to apply the counter to whatever they're doing, right? So if they're just kind of walking up and poking you, then you have to try to whiff punish that. Or if they're being a little passive, then you have to try to walk up, whatever the actual counter to whatever they're doing happens to be, that you have to try to apply it, right? So in this case, if the Akuma is doing this stuff, right, they're basically, so this is a little bit, not quite neutral in the sense that like, it's not like, the footsies aspect, because you're kind of getting up here. But what the Akuma does is it looks like he walks forward into your space and then presses a button. Right? In this case, it's because you had just gotten hit, right? That this is like hard to defend. Right?
He suspects me to press at all, so
yeah. Plus you're minus, right? So, or sorry, in addition you're minus.
yeah.
Right? So you get hit. Right? So from here you got hit, right? -6. So this is pretty tough, right? You can't really press here in that scenario anymore, right? So you do have to just kind of block and hold it. Now you could go for a parry or something if you read strike, but it's pretty risky, right? Because if you parry and they do nothing, they just walk up through you. So just blocking here is totally fine. So a little bit different than the scenario I was kind of describing, but like this kind of shows what's happening here. Every time you get hit, it's very difficult for you to do something afterwards, right? It's like Akuma's turn still, right? Okay, so he does that to poke you. Now you're back here, right? So from here, what can you do, right? You can probably try to walk forward, press your button. You can try to continue playing at the space, try to get the whiff, right? So it just depends on what the Akuma wants to do. Now, Akuma has shown that he's demon flip twice, is willing to jump, right? So what I would do if I was you in this position here, now I haven't seen the replay, was I would just kind of chill in this positioning here and try to see if they'll whiff something, right? They've been pretty active, so let's see what happens. Good DP, right? They went for a jump, DP, good. Close the space overhead, totally fine. Plus frames, or plus frame, rather. I think you're only +1 after this. But it's your opportunity to continue pressing and go for the throw. And I think that's fine, right? You went for the jab, kept it airtight, right? 2 jabs here, jab into medium punch, it's fine. Now, again, the Akuma's not mashing here, so I think that's okay to do this, right? So if you do get counter hit in this position, though, you have to pay attention to if the opponent is mashing or not. But they don't, so this lands good. Go save cancel, more or less, and then the Akuma takes their turn back with another delayed jab, right? So there's the block, and then they jab a little bit late, right? So now that you've seen them do a delayed jab multiple times, right? Let's think about what they're trying to defend against. So if they're doing a delayed jab, it's likely they're defending against a walk-up throw, a shimmy, or an additional jab, right? Like those are the things that delayed jab will beat, right? So if they are thinking that and they're doing delayed jab, your option would be to just back up, right? Try to wish punish the jab, or apply a block string that has a gap, right? Those would be the 2 options you have against this, against someone that's doing this to you, right? On defensively. Because it feels like they've done this a couple of times in terms of the defensive jab, right? Or sorry, the delayed jab as a defensive option. And that's kind of stopping you from doing a ton, right? So like you get hit here. Well, not hit, but like you have to block this, right?
I guess how would I tell like if they're consistently like delay jabbing? Because it's just a normal jab, but some people will just like
Do it.
jab just in general.
Yeah. So typically you'll be able to tell if there's a beat between the jab, right? So you'll have to put this in training mode to recognize it. But you see what happens here, right? So this happens, right? Now, right here is the end of Akuma's recovery, right? And let's see how long it takes for them to jab. Right, that's a long time. Right, that was like 20 frames or something, right? So that's a long time. So it's actually not even a delayed jab. It's more like you guys both back in neutral, and then just jabs you as you try to move, right? So what I would say here, if you think they're doing delay jab, right, or if you consider they're doing that, right, you'd be able to see it, because if you were to apply some pressure and back off, the jab will come out a little bit late. So you'll have to pay attention to that. Because if you think about it, right, if I do 2 lights, chained lights, right, if they're mashing jab, they'll get hit, right? They'll get counter hit during that, right? Because you can't necessarily press your 4 frame during chained lights, right? Like Rashid will counter hit, you get a conversion. So if you do two lights, one light or two lights, and then you kind of back off, and then you see a jab come out, you would consider that they're doing delay jab as a defensive option, right? Be like, oh, like, a jab came out after some stuff happened, and it didn't seem, and it was in like a reasonable amount of time, right? It wasn't like delayed like this late, but it happened. Then you can be like, oh, they're delay jabbing, right? The other way to do it other way to test it rather is to just apply the counter, right? So if you do a jab into like a crouching medium punch or something with like a 5-frame to 6-frame gap, which I think it would be like a crouching light punch or light punch into crouching medium punch for Rashid. If you just do that and then you get counter hit from that, then they're doing some delay option, right? Because if they do a delay tech, that option that I just talked about, the delay, like the gap, the stagger pressure, will beat that. It'll also beat the delay jab, right? Because you'll hit the startup of that move, basically. So that's one. I think those are two ways. Like, there are probably multiple ways to check it. These are probably the easiest, I think, would be for you to back off and see what they do. And if the jab comes out at a timing that makes sense for a delay option, right, you'll kind of have to hone that sense. Or you just go for an option that'll beat delay jab, right? So crouching light punch into crouching medium punch, I think, would probably do it. So this isn't going to be an exact test, but let's see if I'm right. Right, well, so I'll say 5-frame. Let's see if I can back up a little bit here. So I'm just trying to see what the gap is here. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, something like that, like a 4-frame into like a 6 or 7-frame, I think will allow you to counter hit a delay option. So that's how you would tell. You have to pay attention to if you get a counter hit when you apply that offensive sequence, the block string. It does lose to mash, unfortunately, if you do that. But then now you know they're mashing, right? So you can change up what you're doing then also, right? So if they're mashing, then you would just continue your light string, right? That'll get the counter hit that you're looking for. So hopefully that made sense. I know it's a little bit convoluted in answer, but hopefully that helps when it comes to identifying that defensive option.
I got it. I think. Oh, I might have to look into it then.
Yeah.
Or anything.
I mean, there's a video I made on delay options and how to beat that. I'll send that. I'll put it in the channel when we're after this.
Oh, then
Yeah,
I could probably find
help.
it.
Yeah, it should help explain it. Yeah. Okay. Ooh. Okay, plus frames. Good block, but it looks like you got hit as you were what? Wait, how'd you get hit? Oh, you're trying to jump.
It was the jump, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. I think that jumping in that scenario is a little bit tough. I would just consider continuing to block until you're out of range of more buttons, right? Because your pre-jump frames are what's getting tagged here. So, right, and how did you get hit there? Oh, okay. It looks like you were just backing up. Yep. So something happens. You're like, I better back up out of this. Right, and you get tagged as you're walking back, basically, right? So, okay. Try to jump, get demon flipped into overhead. Sucks.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah, it sucks.
During this
Yeah.
It's like he has a lot of options. They've had a lot of, I guess, experience where they just don't do anything and they grab. Like I would try to parry that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, or anti-air potentially, but it's tough.
Very
because,
risky.
Yeah, it's risky, right? Like if they elect to just walk up, well, I mean, if you're blocking, you could potentially react to it, but he does it in a timing that's a little awkward, right? He does DP, right? I don't know if this is a bait or an issue on his part for the inputs, right?
I thought it was gonna be like some kind of setup for level 3.
Yeah, I think he was trying to super, honestly. Yeah, I think he was trying to super after the adamant frame and it didn't come out, right? I think that's what actually happened. If you look at his inputs here, it looks like he's trying to input a super. Like maybe he's on pad or something rolling it, but it doesn't come out and he gets a DP instead.
No, it was definitely like
Yeah,
some
like,
kind of super.
Yeah, he's trying to super here, right? So is what it is.
At first, I thought it was like critical art, but then he's not even in critical art.
Yeah,
So
it's definitely level 3 is what he's going for, or even a level 1. I'm not sure what the if this is. It's a super for sure. I think we both agree it's probably he's trying to super something and drops it, right? So, right, goes for the demon flip here, but you're already jumping, right? You're holding up back, trying to get out of the corner, right? There's a good jump, right? So let's take a look at why that worked, right? So
yeah, I when I jump, I try to look for like some kind of opening or like a gap
yeah,
in their block string.
yeah,
So it usually works. Sometimes it doesn't.
mm-hmm.
Sometimes I just get clipped, you know. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily a
It's not
good
a
thing on my part.
Yeah, jumping is not an exact science, unfortunately, but you kind of have to get a sense of how the Akuma is pressing buttons, right? So if you notice what the Akuma tends to do here is they'll press button into button and then back off, right? So what they're actually tagging you is like their second button. It's tagging you trying to move, right? Like they're just trying to apply some, button pressure on you, get you to block things. But since you're jumping on their second button, it's what's tagging you, right? So you do a good job here, and the Akuma does something different, right? He throws a fireball, right? And then goes through that thing there, right? And that recovery is long enough for you to jump, right? So it worked out. The spacing and the recovery was enough, right? So if we look here, he throws the OD fireball, he's plus, but the pre-jump frames are done, right? 3 frames, you're in the air, and it works out, right? He goes for the low, it worked out, right? So even though he was plus, you press the button that would not catch your jump, and that's how you get out, right? So the other times where you have gotten clipped, a lot of times it's because you're holding jump and you block something, and then they press another button that the hitbox comes out in your pre-jump frames. So usually it's like a light. I think you're getting tagged by, so or a medium button. But yeah, the
Yeah.
jump. I don't mind jumping here. Like it's probably the correct thing to do. Try to jump to get out of the corner. It's just that you do have to kind of not choose it every time, right? Because jumping does lose to meaties, which is like the most common thing, right? Like meaty strike anyway. So we just have to try to pick your spots here. If you think there's a gap in pressure, like you were saying, it's probably the right thing to do. So anyway, get out. All right, cool. Now you have corner control. Both of you have low meter, level 3 versus level 2. 2 to 3 mix-ups away. Let's see what happens. Okay, so same
Yeah,
sequence as
he
before.
just wasn't doing anything to it.
Yeah, he
But he
just
also wasn't getting
blocks.
clipped. I don't think he knew what to do there.
No, I
Even
think he was just blocking. He wasn't
if
applying like a counter necessarily.
like if anything, I probably should have just went for like a throw or something at some point. Because
Yeah.
I notice I don't do that often.
Yeah, you
You
don't.
know,
I think you
I'm more
you
of
go
a
for like the
shimmy
high low
heavy
mix.
person.
Yeah, you have to throw them more. I think, right? Try to get them to open up because you can't really shimmy until they delay tech, but you haven't really thrown them, right? I don't think you've thrown them once this set, so or this game anyway. So he's just blocking, right? Just waiting for an opportunity for you to stop doing what you're doing, and then after this special move, he just presses. Right, presses a jab to try to take his turn, right? Ah, okay. So how did you get hit here? Yeah,
There's a
so
button.
what happened here was he pressed the jab into a 6-frame move, right? So a little bit greedy, right? Because he's jabbing, he's minus, but he presses this button. So normally, this would actually get beat by mash. The issue here is that you press a button that's slower than what he's trying to press, right? Because this Gachi or stand medium kick is like 7 frames, right? Or 8 frames, something like that. Let me make sure. Stand medium kick. 8 frame, right? This is 8-frame move. So his move is coming out 1 frame slower, which means that his 6-frame move is now a 7-frame move. But that's still faster than your 8-frame move, right?
Yeah.
So if you are going to mash something against this jab, I would suggest mashing something that is 4 frames or 5 frames, right? Something faster if you can, right? 5 frames is probably the way to go, like a stand light kick or something like that for Rashid. Oops. If you are going to take a turn back, right? So if you are going to try to press after this, like you think he's going to, because again, this will lose if he mashes, right? But if you think he's going to try to take the turn with like a big button after, Let's see. It has to be a light, I think. Oh, actually, it looks like the space here doesn't really let you do anything, right? So you'll trade there. And you'll trade there. So why is that trading? Okay, it's the space. So yeah, I think that if you were going, you can't really press anything here. Looking at that now, right? This is why we lab it, I guess. But I thought you could probably try to press something here, but you can't, right? Because of the space after the jab. And I think this just has to do with like the space he hits you with in the jab. So if you're gonna do that, I think you can block or you can try to parry potentially, right? So do something like this, maybe. Right. Maybe, or back up.
Wish, yeah.
Yeah, something like that, right? If he can do. Now this is a really difficult whiff punish, right?
So,
Because
yeah, it's very, the window is very short.
yeah, you're basically preempting it, right? So you're expecting him to press the button, backing up out of range, and then pressing. It's like a wish punish almost, right? So, you know, if the Akuma has been doing that, like jab into medium punch, you do have to pay attention if they're doing that or not, right? If they're too close, like it's very close, you could potentially steal it with a 4-frame move. The reason it doesn't seem to be working here is if you look at what was happening. I try to do like the crouching light kick or the crouching light punch. It's actually hitting on the second active frame, so it means that the Akuma's hurt box and your hit boxes aren't colliding until after the punch comes out, right? So
Yeah.
that space means it kind of sucks. So you may have to just kind of back off there if they jab, right, or continue blocking, and be careful because the other thing that Akuma could do here is do a crouching medium kick instead, right, and that have kind of the same effect except it'll tag you walking back. So the safest option would be to just block, right? So just let that happen. Go back to neutral, play that. Or you can, again, try to go for like a wish punish type deal there if you back up, but you'll lose to crouching medium kick, right? So you just have to weigh how bad you want to be able to steal this turn or not. Because if you look at what happened here, right? Like if I go back to this situation here and I block it out, right? We're neutral again, right? So you can continue playing Rashid neutral in the corner, right? And try to go from there. So
Yeah.
you take that damage here, unfortunately, otherwise. So he doesn't really do anything with this. He just takes a safe special here, but you are almost dead, right? So oh, that sucks. You get tagged here?
Oh, that,
Oh no, you got him.
yeah. Oh, this is a different game. All right. This is the one where I actually got it.
Yeah, but you lose to the XTP, right? Unfortunately. And again, this is really tough because you're trying to press your advantage here. So you go for a meaty here, and he just bets it all, right? From a risk reward perspective, though, and this is kind of interesting. I think is that he burns out for this, right? I'll bet it all on EXTP, right, and kill you if you go for a meaty. But if you block it, what actually happens, right? You lose some drive gauge, you get a meterless conversion because you don't really have enough gauge, and you'll put Akuma at like half of this health, right? He'll probably be like another mix-up away from dying. So from his perspective, he can go for a reversal and still have a chance to win the game, right? Even if you get a conversion here that leaves you in some Oki scenario, he can still win the game from there, right? Maybe it's a guess situation or whatever, but he can still win, right? It's not over for him. For you, though, if he's right, you're dead, right? So
Yeah.
that kind of risk reward kind of thinking, you do have to consider it a little bit when it comes to offense, right? So like if I'm trying to open this Akuma up, and you're like, well, what have they been doing? What have they showed me they're willing to do? He actually hasn't reversed a lot that much, to be fair, so it's whatever. But if you take into account the meter situation, the life situation, all that, like EXTP seems like a good option for him, so he went for it, and you kind of get blown up, right? So, but yeah, all that said, I think that the biggest thing, like if we were trying to talk low hanging fruit, the biggest thing would be for you to get better at recognizing the spacing where your buttons will whiff. Right, that's kind of how I was beating you, and a little bit how the Sakuma was beating you too. Was that there are some situations where he was able to whiff punish you. So that would be the one thing I would work more on, right? And again, it's easier said than done. If you're looking for how to do that, I think I stole this from Chris F. Like the way you would do it, or one of the Chris's, I don't remember who, but the way you would start. Would be that you would go into training mode, right? You would take your character and you would just experiment with standing at different ranges and trying to understand where you need to be standing to hit the training dummy with the tip of your hitbox, right? So like, stay a certain distance, try the button, get closer, put the button, all that, right? Do it statically, so like, the characters aren't moving at all. So getting a sense of like what that spacing needs to look like between the characters for your button to hit is paramount, right? That's what you're aiming for. Once you have a good idea of that, the next thing to try to do is to try to do it while moving. So you move forward and back, and then you move into the space to press the button, and then press it, right? And your idea is to land the button when you move, right? So you move up, press the button, right? So that means you're moving into the space that you recognize will hit, and then you press the button and then hit them, right? Like that's the goal of those two things. And then,
All right, that
yeah, and then
makes sense.
yeah, try that first, right? That way, the idea behind this is that when you take this into your games, you're gonna whiff less because you're like, oh, that spacing means I'm not gonna hit, right? Now it's gonna be really hard in game because both characters are moving, but the idea is that now you won't be whiffing things from so far away that you get whiff punished, right? Maybe you still whiff occasionally, and everyone whiffs. That's less life, but the idea is to reduce the number of times you whiff and land more of your buttons, right? If it's on hit or it's on block, doesn't matter. You just have to make sure you don't whiff, right? If they block it, it's fine, right? No big deal. If you hit, even better, right? But whiffing is what you're trying to avoid, right? So, and then I'll send you the video on delay options and on defense. I think that'll kind of help a little bit with what some of these folks are doing to you here, at least for this game. And then the other thing I would say is that on defense, be willing to choose other options, right? Be willing to reversal, be willing to ODDP, right? Get out of those situations. And make sure that when you do decide to delay tech, that you actually delay it, right? So practice that a little bit. I think you have to make sure that you're delaying it. So, cool, man. That would be where I think you need to go from here. Honestly, that's where I was beating you the most. Now, there's probably some other things we talk about, but I think like in terms of where to go from here, I think those will help a ton. Because as soon as you stop whiffing buttons, I think you'll get back to 1600 no problem, right? Like I truly believe that your offense, when you have them cornered, is strong enough to do that. It's just you have to get them there first, right? And this is how you do it. So
And yeah, no, I think the spacing is definitely something I should work on.
yeah,
So
yeah. And
I
it's tough to grind it out, but it will help longer term for sure.
it will definitely help.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, cool, man.
yeah,
Yeah, anything else
look
you want to
into
ask
it.
before we wrap up here? Or anything else you're thinking about?
I guess. Well, let's see, my only two buttons in neutral are my kicks, my medium kicks.
Mm-hmm.
The punches like don't go far at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if I keep like if I keep continuously having to use those, it's gonna end up getting predictable, you know?
Kind of,
So
kind
it's
of. So let's talk about that a little bit, right? So if I go into training mode here, right, I'll pick Rashid.
oh, and on the off chance heavy kick, but
Yeah,
that one has to hit because
yeah. You get if you whiff that, you're gonna get blown up, right? So let's take a look at these buttons, right? So try to figure out. So this is what I would actually do, in terms of training mode, right? So obviously you have jabs, which you know the range of, right? And it's pretty short, so it's tough to land any of these. But let's take a look at this. Right. So jabs, right? Pretty short range, right? So I have to be standing like here for the jab, right? Sound like kick two is really stubby for Rashid. Get that. Now crouching medium kick, right?
yeah.
All right. So you want to make sure that when you try to go for this, you land it, right? So you need to be standing like here, right? Oh, actually, it whiffs. So we're like here. Right, that hits. Right. So now you have a sense of and you can kind of look at it, right? So if I were to restart this, so like you see how the training room has like these kind of blocks, lines that kind of go all the way down. The idea here is that it gives you a sense of like the space you need to be standing at, right? So you have an idea. So in this case here, it looks like for crouching medium kick to land, if Akuma is standing right here, where if I put his like foot right here on this line here, like if I'm standing all the way here, it's obviously gonna whiff, right?
Yeah.
If I'm standing here, it's still probably gonna whiff, right? But if I'm standing about here, let's see, about here, right? You can see Rashid's like left foot is over the hash mark or whatever. Is this gonna whiff or not, right? I actually don't know, so let's find out.
I think it
stairs.
will. Yeah,
Right. So if
it's
I'm
a
standing
lot
here,
shorter than it looks.
yeah, it's a little stubby, right? So you have to get an idea of like where you need to be standing. So here though, I think this will hit, right? Nope, still whiffs. So even more. Right, that hits, right? So now you have a sense of like the space you need to be standing at, more or less, right? It's a little bit closer, so it's like here, right? I think. Right, so here, right, something like that. So this is what I would try to grind out, right? Is like, where do I stand for the crouching medium kick? Now you're saying that there's other buttons you can press, right? Like crouching, not this. This is too stubby, right? But this is pretty good. Crouching medium punch, right?
A
Still gotta
little
be a little
bit.
close, still a little stubby, but it is what
It
it
looks
is.
really situational
This one?
because if yeah, the punch lands like on their head, you get like an extra frame, you know?
Oh, yeah, right here. But normally you'd be
Yeah.
canceling this anyway, right? So you do something like this, right? Right, or whatever the button is. But the idea would be for you to be able to press that, right? So this one I normally see, like this button, I normally see it as like a check. So like if someone dry rushes, you press this, right? So
Oh, really?
that's what I've seen, right? Because I think Rashid has a pretty good disjoint on this guy. Let me make sure.
Because I use it as like I guess a spacing trap. Because if you hit it like on the head or just somewhere on like the upper body, you can do crouching medium kick, no problem, and they can't really do anything.
Yeah, if it's
Because
on
if they
this.
do, like, it whiffs.
Yeah. Yeah, so it looks like the main thing you would want to make sure the main thing you want to use this for though, right, is that you get the plus frame on block, right? So it's +1 on block. But yeah, I would even so, right? I would still consider using this because, like you were saying, if you're just using this all the time, right, that's gonna get a little predictable, right? But you can use this to try to pressure, right? Because it's plus on block, right? So if I have Mr. Kumi here just block, right, it's +1. So if you can like force this situation more, right? Akuma can't really press against this, right? So you can take space up and continue pressuring, right? What are the buttons you have? Crouching heavy punch, right? A little bit longer
Yeah,
range, right? But this one, I think you get a conversion if it's on punish counter, right?
I think you just get a sweep because if you get it, yeah, it's situational, but
Yeah,
you can get a sweep, or you can, if you're close enough, heavy punch.
right. But the other part to this too is that you can whatchamacallit. What's this? Right? Is it 9 frame advantage? Okay. So it looks like you actually get this too. So you get stand heavy punch also, which maybe is good. Yeah, I don't play Rashid, but we're just kind of experimenting with buttons here, right? So if I press this, right, that's a combo, right? But
Yeah,
what you're trying to do here is you're just trying to poke with this, right? This is a really long range poke, right? Yeah, I'm standing pretty far away. Right, that's hitting, right? That's just pretty far, right? And it takes a bit startup and all that, but this is probably one of your. This is a pretty good ranged poke overall, right? Crouching medium kick, and then I think that's really the main buttons here. But the idea is that you have some buttons you can press in neutral to try to take up space, right? If you feel like you're just pressing this all the time, right, into drive rush or whatever, like you're gonna burn out real fast, right? And opponents will figure out how to defend against that. But if you're able to successfully poke and land these buttons, right? Like this one's a little tough to use too. You have to be close. But the idea is that if you're comfortable with all the ranges of your buttons, then stuff starts to open up for you, right? Like you'll be able to whiff punish with this, right? And other things will start opening up for you if you're standing at the right spot, right? I would start there.
yeah.
As far as neutral buttons go, and again, this is kind of a bit more of a bigger topic. So what's the goal when you try to poke people, right? Like, why are you using these buttons here? Like, this one's not necessarily special cancelable, right? So, like, if it's standard on hit, I can't really do anything, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's no cancel at all. But the idea is that you're controlling the space, right? So, if the Akuma here is afraid of me pressing this button every time they get into range, or every time I get into his range, right? So I walk up and press the button, and I'm doing it at the tip, right? So it's like really kind of hard to deal with, right? I'm pressing it where it can be hard for him to press back. Because on block, I'm pretty sure this is probably going to be pretty minus. Let's see. Right, -6, right? This is technically punishable, right, by Akuma's stuff. But if I do it at the tip of this range, right, you can see how far the pushback is, right? Like, there's no 6 framer that's going to reach this. So it makes it very difficult to deal with, right? Now what happens eventually is that as you get better at poking like this, where you're maintaining the space and able to poke them, like every time you land this hit, see how Akuma gets pushed back, right? You're moving them closer and closer to the corner is the first thing. The second thing that happens is like the Akuma has to respond to what you're doing, right? So if I am only ever doing this, I walk up, right range, I press this, and they get hit, right? The next time I walk up, it's going to elicit some kind of response from Akuma, right? Maybe he presses a button, maybe he jumps, walks forward, backdashes, does something, right? So instead of him trying to stop you from pressing your button, he's going to do something else to try to avoid getting hit. And that's how the crouching medium kick gets opened up, right? So imagine if the Akuma, every time you walk into the space, you do this, and you hit him, right? The next time that you walk up, he's like, oh man, I don't want to get hit, right? So he'll back up. You continue walking forward, and then you tag him with that, right? Then you'd be like, oh, I need that, because he's moving now, right? So that's how the neutral game ends up happening, or evolving, if you will, during your match, because you're both trying to adjust to what the other is doing. And if you're losing that battle because you're getting outspaced and outpoked, you're more likely to take other options that you can take advantage of with Rashid's crouching medium kick, or tag them low, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. But none of that stuff can happen if you can't effectively stop this, right? Like even when we were playing our game, I was just using stand heavy kick and stand heavy punch to keep you at a certain range, right? I would press it when you got close.
Yeah.
And then it felt like you couldn't really do anything. It's like, oh man, he's walking up, what do I do? And you back up. And then all of a sudden you get tagged with a crouching medium kick, right? That's what's happening. Is that if you're able to control this space here, right, the two things that happen is, or two things that can happen rather, is that the Akuma will continue getting pushed back, right? Like your opponent will continue getting pushed back. Every time they block something, there's pushback, right? So, right, every time you get pushed back, right? So if that's happening, right, then that means that they're obviously getting closer to the corner, where if you have them in the corner, you can win the game from there, right? Again, the other thing is that it elicits a different response. So now when you go up, right, maybe they jump and you just anti-air them, right? Maybe they walk forward, in which case you can check them with your crouching medium punch or your stand medium punch, right? Because these are pretty quick buttons, plus unblock, right? So as they walk forward, maybe you do that instead. Or check it with a jab, right? Something like this, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
But the response changes, right? And if they are doing something else that's not trying to hit you, then you can try to adapt to that and try to hit them, right? Tag them low or whatever to get your offense started, right? That's how you typically try to open people up in neutral, right? Is by doing that. But again, it's all predicated on your ability to land these buttons at the max range that you can, right? Because if you do this, right, like you can't really be punished from here, right? Like 6 frame, no way, right? There's no 6 frame in the game that goes this far, right? Similarly for like something like this, stand heavy punch, right? There's no 4 frame that's gonna hit you, right? In fact, if Akuma decides to press their 4 frame, you space trap them, right? So just to further this point, right? If I do something like stand light, or let's do a stand light kick here, right? Oh, yeah, that should be fine. On block, that's fine, right? Right. Automatic space trap, right? He tries to press a button, you get space trapped. And if I do something even like a crouching medium punch, for example, right? Kuma special right here. Right? They can't press their button anymore if you were able to do this at the tip. Now if I am up close, right? Now I'm going to get hit. Right? Like that's going to happen to me. But if I'm spacing this correctly, right? Like that wasn't even like at the tip, and that's what happened, right? Similarly for this, probably. It's actually slow. But you see what I mean, though, right? Is that like allowing that space to doing it correctly, space-wise, opens up these opportunities. Like if I'm too close, right, I'm gonna get counter hit or punish counter even, right? But from here, right, I can't get hit, right? So. But yeah, it all predicates on your ability to mock forward and press that, though. So hopefully that helps, because I think that's hopefully that makes sense. I know it's kind of a lot, but that's the point of trying to do the exercise I was talking about. So
yeah, it's just trying to see what buttons would work
Hmm.
and what don't. Because I do the crouching heavy punch. I
Yeah.
usually use it as like cancel for super.
Hmm.
That's about it.
Like
It
that.
is
Yeah.
mainly a poking.
Yeah. Yeah. Because again, you're trying to pay attention to the responses, right? So even here, this situation, right? Press that, right? Like that's an easy whiff punish. I didn't have to think about it, right? If they're pressing, you just react. But that happens because the spacing is correct, right? If I do this, obviously make a hit, right? So cool. Because a lot of that's all Street Fighter Six is all spacing and that stuff.
Yeah,
'Cause everything's minus in this game, right? Like Rashid has some plus buttons, but they're like stubby, right? You have to be up here,
very true.
right? And then even here, right? Even this is a space trap a little bit, right? Right? Something like that if they're pressing, right? So, but anyway. So yeah, that's what I would say. And hopefully to answer your questions about using multiple buttons and why, right? Like you do want to eventually
Yeah,
land the crouch medium kick drive rush. 'Cause that's pretty good. But that avenue opens up to you if you're able to space the rest of your pokes effectively, right? Now, of course, there's caveats, right? If your opponent is DI happy or something like that, or does a lot of jumps or whatever, then you have to adjust to that, right? If they're DIing a bunch, you don't use non-cancelable buttons anymore. If they're jumping a bunch, you kind of stop pressing buttons and just anti-air, right? So, those adjustments. But if they're staying grounded and they're hard to open up, this is what I think you should try to do more of to help with that. So
yeah,
cool, man.
yeah. No, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's hard. Don't
Yeah,
get me wrong. Like, this takes such a long time to get good at and like be comfortable with, but it does make things easier longer term, right? Because when we play it again, like, did it feel like I was standing too close a lot of the time, right? Like I was standing in your space. Like this is uncomfortable, right? So that's what I'm hoping to elicit when I do that, and hopefully now that you're thinking about this, you'll try to do the same to your opponents, right? So
yeah.
yep. Cool, man.
It's
Yeah. Anything else you can think of you
this is
want to
good
ask?
though. Just, I gotta have a couple things then,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I
You
gotta
got
get
some work to
back.
do, I think, but ultimately it'll make the game easier, or at least feel better, right, as you're doing stuff.
I
So
hope so.
yeah, and it's tough, huh?
It is.
Yeah,
It's brutal out here, man.
yeah. The streets not easy. So cool, man. Anything else you want to ask before we wrap up?
No, I think we're good.
Cool, man. Yeah, I'll put that video into the sit down shut up channel that I was talking about for delay options after I end stream. So cool, man. Yeah, I'm just gonna wrap up on
All right,
stream. You can hang out on Discord if you want. I'm just gonna mute you on
all right.
stream. But otherwise, have a good night, man. I know it's kind of late probably.
It's
So
a
tell you, have a good one. Cool. Thanks for watching, guys. Sit down, shut up. Appreciate you guys tuning in, your messages and likes and all that stuff. Follows and whatnot. Appreciate it. I know I don't always react to chat, but thank you for tuning in. I run this through Fight Rise Discord. So Fight Rise is a fighting game community that focuses on Street Fighter 6. They run bi-weekly events through their One Fight Stand series. That's a 7-round Swiss if you're a master and above. If you're below a master, you'll be put into a pool with X number of players who play 7 rounds of round robin, depending on how many people show up. It's a great time. Come by, play that. It's a good time. Again, good way to get tournament level like sets with folks without it being like super committal and all that. It is run like a local, so it feels pretty good. You get on VC, talk to people. They also do community showcase events through their Urge to Fight series. So they showcase folks in the community. Go through, and if you're interested in those to see what those look like, take a look at twitch.tv/FightRiseFGC. If you want to look at past videos. Another thing to do is the BLKO. So Big League KO series is a league format over the course. So you run in a 8-person pool, right? So it'd be you and 7 other players. You run a round robin. You'll run 2 matches a week over the course of 5 weeks. They're all first to 5 matches, so you get a ton of matches, ton of games with folks. It's all round robin, and then after the pools, you get there's a postseason. So if you're interested in making playoff, if you do well in your pool, you make playoffs, and there's community showcase events and stuff after that. So it's a good time. Very popular series. So I think the league is wrapping up. They're in their grand finals sometime this month. I think it's going to be played. But if you are interested in that or any of the things I'm talking about so far, please join the Fight Rise Discord. It's all the events are listed there. I think their next season for Big League KO is probably going to be sometime in October. I think it's going to be later on after summer as the TOs take a break. But yeah, those are all good things. If you like what I'm talking about here and want a training session like this for yourself, join the Fire Rise Discord. Take a look at a channel called Sit Down and Shut Up. There'll be pinned messages there on how to join the queue and how to get a session like this. And yeah, I'm also part of the Newbie Fight Club. So the Newbie Fight Club is a fighting community focused on helping newer players get into the game. They run lobby nights every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Every other week, they also run special Swiss events, I think, on Fridays. And once a month, they run a modern tournament, modern monthly, right? So all these things, if you're interested, again, please join the Discord. It's not just Street Fighter for Newbie Fight Club. They also do other Fightcade stuff on Thursdays, I think. And sometimes they'll do 2D fighting games, so like City of the Wolves, or they also do 3D fighting games like Tekken and Virtua Fighter if anyone's playing Tekken. So again, if any of these things interest you, please join the Discords. I'm pretty active in both of these, so if you want sets with me or talk to me about anything, I'm there, so you can reach out. So again, this has been Sit Down and Shut Up. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and have a good night.